Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, and today we'll be going over the spoilers from Targon. Alright, so I know I'm a couple days late. Like 3 days, probably, yeah, I think, yeah, it's 3 days. 3 days that these spoilers have been out. At least the earliest of the spoilers. So although I am a little bit behind, I actually have had a lot more time to think about what these cards could do, and I've actually gathered some notes. So, before I talk about the cards themselves, I do want to give a outline for how these next couple days are going to go. Today, I'm going to go over the Targon cards. Tomorrow, I'll go over the Ionia cards that came out today, and probably the spoilers from tomorrow. I'll skip Saturday and Sunday, I think. Um, just break days. And then Monday, we'll sort of rein in those cards we missed. And then Tuesday and the rest of the week, we'll just be going over spoilers as they come out. As soon as they come out, I'm going to get on top of it. But since we have some old Targon cards to talk about, I might as well just get right into it. So, we have the new champion, Tarek. So, give me and my supported ally Tough this round. Copy the last spell you cast only on me this round onto that ally. So, 4 mana for a 2/3 is kind of weak. He himself reminds me a lot of Zed, as in he is a huge tempo swing, really forces your opponent to do something about it, and he can't really go unanswered. Like, giving Tough is huge, because if you open attack with him, he becomes a ton harder to remove. You have to cast a spell onto him, so probably you have to cast it during combat, right? So, nothing slow speed. It's probably going to be like a Fury of the North, or something along those lines. Fury of the North now becomes a 4 mana, give +8/+8 over 2 dudes. If you think about this, it's huge. And the amount of support, the support for the support mechanic we have, this can hit very hard in a lot of early boards. But you do have to build your deck around it, and it forces you into a sort of tough position and some tough hands. So Tarek can be really powerful. Maybe in a treat card for him. I don't know though. Entreat seems kind of weak. Tarek doesn't actually. I mean, he hits hard when he hits hard, but like it requires setup and it requires card draw. Because if you are just fearing the north every turn, then you cast another creatures, you're gonna run out of fuel eventually. Unlike a card like Zed or Braum, who can just stay like that, that big or whatever. If you pump Braum or Zed, and they can push out the tempo without having you to have pumped them. Well, Tarek requires you to play a spell onto him, so you're going to probably be in the regions of Ionia for some of that card draw and spell synergies, I think. That's where he's going to be strong. And of course, he levels up once you've targeted or supported allies 7+ times. Since he has to have seen it, it's going to be extremely, like super hard to level him up. But I think you could do it with some of the gem synergies. In his leveled up version, gives him and his ally invincible, which is pretty amazing. And there was something that came up more recently. He is actually an infinite combo with what's that card called? Playful Trickster? I think so. That card states that you can remove an ally from combat to rally. So if you play that on Tarek, you rally, and you can attack with Tarek, and then you give his supported ally, you recall it from or remove it from combat, and you rally again because you copy it. So it's infinite combat steps. Obviously, this would be a Fizz deck because of, well, obviously Fizz works really well with Tarek himself, but he also has the Playful Trickster as his champion spell, and he's an elusive right away. So that's a very powerful combo. It does require you that you somehow you protect Tarek, otherwise he's going to die, and then the combo is over. But that is a pretty cool infinite combo. Tarek's champion spell is Blessing of Targon, a 5 mana burst speed, grant an ally +3/+3, so it's a permanent buff. And that card is an actual spell you can play, obviously. This card has been talked about a lot. It reminds me of Fury of the North. So this card sort of lies in between Standalone and Fury of the North, as in it gives the standalone buff with the grant, but it can do it onto anything, and it costs 5 mana instead of 4 mana. So it's like a Fury of the North, almost. And well, most people, most YouTubers, or streamers or whatever, have said that this card is much worse than Fear of the North. And that's because it costs 1 extra mana for 1 less buff. Even though it's permanent, Fear of the North has a lot more capabilities. Giving 1 extra attack and 1 extra health can matter so much, especially because 3 health is very counterable to things like Get Excited, Grasp of the Undying. There's just a ton of things that can deal 3 damage, and Fear of the North actually puts it out of a ton of ranges. Granting an ally +2/+3 doesn't actually matter that much, especially when Fear of the North, if you have a unit with at least 5 HP and they're down to 1, can actually heal them back up to that 5. Granted, that's minus the damage they're going to be taking. But if you think about it, Blessing of Targon granting an ally +2/+3 doesn't matter a whole lot, because you mostly care about health in this game. Attack is not nearly as impactful, because once an ally is 3 or 4, or even just 5 attack, if it doesn't have Overwhelm, the attack actually just sort of, reaches a point, and then after that, it sort of doesn't matter, right? So Blessing of Targon is kind of a weak card. Mountain Sojourners is a 5-mana 2/3 with support. Grant my supported ally +2/+2. If that ally has support, also granted supported ally +2, and if that ally has support, do it again and again and again. So basically, this can go to the right equal to the amount of times your allies have support. So this could be a huge tempo swing, giving multiple dudes +2/+2, and that can have a huge impact on the game. Now, you do have to have some, maybe like a Kato, or just some way to give your dudes Overwhelm, or else this stat line will only be protecting your dudes with low HP, and at a certain point in the game, that doesn't even matter. So this card has a hard time making a huge impact. In the right deck, it can be super strong, but I don't ever think it's going to be a 3 of in any deck. It's never going to be a staple for Tarek. So definitely that. Next, we have Tiari the Traveler, a 2-mana 2/2 that says support, grant my supported ally +0/+2. So this card can give your supported ally extra health. The fact that it is a 2/2 for 2 means it's not going to outdo War Chef's. War Chef's 3 health stat line makes it so valuable and way better compared to this card, because it means your opponent has to put more resources into taking it out. Especially in this metagame, 2 damage is way easier to do than 3 damage. So it makes this card hit less. And even granting your supported ally +2 health, early in the game, especially if you're trying to play a sort of Bannerman style deck, like a mid-rangey deck, this card hits a lot less. Sure, the health is great, right? But this card doesn't have a way to protect itself, and it doesn't give your ally extra damage or anything. So War Chefs just hits that spot better. The next card we have is Bastion. Bastion is a 3-cost burst spell. Give an ally Spell Shield this round. So, first of all, Spell Shield states that the targeted ally can't be the target of the next spell or skill targeting it, which means you basically counter the next spell that is going to target it. So if an opponent tries to kill it with something, you can counter that. If an opponent tries to Ruination, you can save the one ally you can target with this spell from the Ruination's effect. It actually does that. But because of the way the card works, if your opponent has another spell like a Vile Feast, a Get Excited, a Make It Rain, they can actually pop the shield using that spell before the other spell, whether it is the Ruination or Vengeance or whatever, before that spell resolves, which means that this card is actually 3 mana, counter a spell. If your opponent has a Vile Feast or whatever, you actually are forced to counter that spell, which means that if they have a Vile Feast, which, by the way, is 2 mana, you're actually spending 3 mana to counter that spell instead of saving your unit from a Ruination or a Vengeance, which makes this card a lot worse than Deny. But despite that, this card being 3 mana, burst speed, and within the Targon region, actually is going to make it a staple in a lot slower decks that are attempting to protect your units. Whether that be a support deck with Arbiter and Tarek, or that be some sort of mid-range Bannerman deck that actually just use the support in the grant to make a permanent buff. So that's my take on the card. Arbiter of the Peak is our next card. It's a 10 mana 6/6 with Overwhelm that says, reduce my cost by 1 for each time you've targeted or supported allies this game. So Arbiter of the Peak is actually pretty strong. The fact that it has Overwhelm above anything, or rather than anything else, is super powerful, especially if you're playing it in a support deck that's going to have the ability to give him extra power. The fact that none of the other cards we've seen so far with support or anything can have Overwhelm or give Overwhelm means that this card is going to have to be a staple in support decks. And as a finisher, it can get through those last points of damage if you're playing a mid-range or aggressive deck. If you're playing aggro, you're probably going to want to, really power this thing out really early, turn 5 or turn 6 to close out the game. If you're playing a mid-range deck, you can still get this out turn 6 or turn 7 along something else, which is going to be very powerful. The Overwhelm has the ability to close out the game in a lot of situations. And with the cards I'm about to talk about, you can actually get his cost reduced pretty easily. So the next cards I want to talk about are the gem cards. So for the gem cards, we have Gift Giver, Mentor of the Stones, Mountain Goat, Gem, and Shards of Mount. So Gem is the gem, of course, that these cards all make. Gem is a 1-mana burst speed card that says heal an ally for 1 and grant it +1 attack. It can't be cast in combat or response to a spell. So it's a slow speed spell that doesn't take an action. So it's like you can play it at slow speed, but you get the action right back. So you can't cast it in combat or in response to a spell, but you can cast as many of them as you want in your turn without having to take up an action, which is pretty powerful. And actually, I like the design for the card a lot. So we have Gift Giver, which is the 1-drop for this region and for this strategy as well. It's a 1-mana 1/1 that says when I'm summoned to create a gem. So I can see this card being played easily in an Arbiter or a Tarek deck, or even maybe a Brawn deck, or any deck really, that wants to give the buff to something or cast the spell. Now it doesn't have, the stats of an Omen Hawk, because Omen Hawk is technically a 3/3. Gift Giver is only technically a 2/2. But you choose what the stat goes to, and Gift Giver specifically gives you that spell, which works better with certain champions like Tarek, Fizz, Lee Sin, and all that. Even Vi, which is very nice. And so I think this will be a 1-drop for a lot of decks. The next one we have is Mountain Goat. It's a 2-mana 3/1 with Strike, create a gem in hand. This card is just really bad. The 1 health stat line means it's never going to hit. And you really need it to hit for it to be any good. It's just worse than Gift Giver because of the stat line. Its health means it's going to get killed by a Vile Feast, a Make It Rain, and therefore it just does not have a lot of value. Mentor of the Stones is a 3-mana 1/1 with support, grant my supported ally +2/+2, and with the last breath of create 3 gems in hand. The Mentor can give a dude +2/+2 for permanently. So if you're attacking odds, you can give it to whatever 1-drop or 2-drop you may have had. That's going to be a very nice tempo swing. And if once it dies, that combat or whenever, you get 3 gems. Those gems are +3 attack, +3 health, and they count as 3 spells for your Tarek or your Arbiter. Even if Mentor doesn't live to get that support, which would mean that it's only a 3-mana 1/1 instead of a 3-mana 3/3, you get the 3 gems, which, if you're playing Tarek or Arbiter, is value enough to, validate this card. And the fact that it can give +2/+2 to a Braum if you're attacking evens, or even turn 5, is huge, which means your opponent has to deal with it, and you're taking their resource while getting 3 cards back. Granted, those cards are gems. That is very strong. Then you have Shards of the Mountain. Fill your hand with gems. So for 4 mana, this card does not have a lot of impact, for sure, but it does have a lot of potential with discard decks that want to be playing a ton of spells like Ezreal. Fizz can use this really well because he gets the extra attack. Lee Sin can use this because he gets the extra attack and they both level up. Vi gets the extra attack and levels up. Heck, Ezreal gets the extra attack. So the gems don't level him up. But once he's leveled up, the gems deal 2 damage and then give him +1 attack. So if they don't have an elusive blocker, that's a lot of damage for this one card. So while it's niche and it, is very low impact, it actually has a lot of potential. And I'm excited to see where this specific card goes. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.